Hello, hello, and it's the never-ending Proust, and hopefully this week we'll get to the famous Madeleine. Is it a biscuit? Is it a cake? So, hi Stuart, how have you been?
Hey, Paul. I just had a good idea. The theme tune for this podcast could be never-ending story. Limahl, that Italian Italo disco. Turn around, tell me what you see. It could just be that. The
I was
never-ending
thinking,
podcast. When the
I,
fuck will it end? So yeah, I'm gonna do a version of that. I'm gonna sing that myself and get that up for the next one.
I was thinking more in lines of the Benny Hill theme tune. Would that not be more appropriate?
No, far too energetic.
Right, so what we plan on doing today, folks, is I wanted to give a bit of context because we're going to do the Madeleine. We promise. Fast forward if you're watching this afterwards for the first bit because I wanted to give some philosophical background because most people know the Madeleine, or if they know Proust at all, they know the Madeleine episode and the huge, never-ending, perennial debate: is it a biscuit? Is it a cake?
Yeah.
But it is obviously all about memory. And I think it's easy to not pass over, but to consider it a wonderful piece of writing and not realize some of its deeper philosophical import, which may sound a bit pretentious and boring, but actually, I think it's really interesting. And it relates to, because my channel can be a bit scattergun, because I like to do topics that interest me. And because I'm not doing this for money, I think, why not? So, but there are various themes, I think, that get brought together. So one, for example, would be we're doing Frankenstein is going to be a future live stream. We're going to do Moby Dick, which amuses me because when I was going through university, I was a male stripper and that was my stage name. So that'll bring back traumatic memories to everyone. But also, Stuart and I are going to do specifically in July, there's Christopher Nolan's film, The Odyssey.
I think it's June. I think it's even sooner than that.
I thought it was July 17th. Why have I got July in my mind?
Yeah, for some reason I'm thinking June. I'll check Internet Movie Database later, but yeah, it's June or July.
But why I mention that is, it strikes me that I've always said Proust, he published, I wrote it down somewhere because I always forget. In Search of Lost Time was published between 1913 and 1927. It was over quite a long period of time. The whole thing got published, all 6 or 7 volumes. But at the same time...
Paul, sorry to jump in. You are right. July 17th. Yeah, you are right.
July 17th. So right. And Christopher Nolan, it intrigues me because what I was going to say was Proust was publishing from 1913 to 27. James Joyce, Ulysses, this is the big link. James Joyce's Ulysses was 1922. And my theory is that these were 2 of the greatest novels ever written, but they also announced the end of the novel in a certain way. Yes, there are more novels, but this was the peak of the novel form. And Christopher Nolan's taken the concept of the Odyssey, which was one of the foundational texts of Western culture. It's the first major piece of literature. So you've got Sumerian, Gilgamesh, you've got the Old Testament, but I think they debate. But I think the Homer's Odyssey, it was obviously written down. It was an oral epic, but the actual story itself, as it was told by they were called singers. I think it's slightly older than the Old Testament. It's complicated because it depends. Do you measure when the Old Testament, all of it was written down? Little bits of it are probably older than the whole of the Iliad or the Odyssey, but they're the foundational texts of Western culture. And arguably, the Odyssey was written down just as the oral epic poetry, singing. It wasn't literally singing, it was reciting. But that was coming to an end, and a whole way of life was coming to an end. And that's when it got written down. So this is a long-winded way of saying when Christopher Nolan does The Odyssey, I want to do a few videos discussing it in advance because I'm going to be intrigued. It's either going to be an absolute, stupendous success, or it's going to be I probably suspect. I just think it's weird that he's trying to do something with something that is such a foundational literary text, And he's doing it's interesting. They're publicizing the whole IMAX element of it, which you'll know much more about IMAX than me, Stu. But basically, it's digital film on steroids.
It's formatted. It's actual framing and the size. Like the problem is with IMAX now. It was initially a 70mm film format with a big, like, massive, almost like square screen, with the seats are like basically pushed into the screen like this. So that is the real IMAX experience. So you're essentially if you go to a real IMAX cinema, like for us it was Bradford, and I think Printworks or Print House, whatever it's called in Manchester, has a proper IMAX as well. You're pushed into the screen. There's nothing around you. It's just so you're into the screen. But IMAX now have like it's called IMAX Digital, which is it's like it's a normal cinema screen with a few modifications. But Christopher Nolan has always been obsessed with this original IMAX format, this huge format. So he makes these big, great epics with insane special effects, and you're pushed right into the screen. So,
which interests me because I'm going to link it to the Proust, trust me. But the original Homer epics, there's this almost like one-dimensionality. The gods exist as objects, and the sun and the gods are immanent in the world.
Yep.
And fate is in people's lives. There isn't this real distance. And arguably what the IMAX Odyssey is going to produce is this, as you've just described it, almost literally
spectacle
in your face. There's no distance. And what we're going to look at today, the whole story of the Madeleine, the whole memory, it's Proust going back in time from his existing present, and he's flitting in and out in a way.
This is very Nolan-esque, really, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, it is, except this is what I'm gonna be fascinated by. I'm gonna do a couple of videos, and you and I hopefully are going to talk about the Odyssey in a lot of detail. But this is, you see, and as far as anyone could do it, I'm not a massive fan of cinema as an art form, but I have to admit someone like Hitchcock was an auteur, he was a master. And insofar as there exists a director like that today, I'd suggest it's Christopher Nolan.
Absolutely.
But the thing I wanted to just have in the background to our discussion today was, given that Proust is dealing specifically with memory, Christopher Nolan's going to be presenting this all-singing, all-dancing film that's devoted to special effects. It's devoted to the accuracy of the image. And in a way, it's forgive the pun, but it's a memento of the actual old-fashioned storytelling.
Yeah.
But what I'm asking is, to what extent can it be a genuine memory of something that no longer exists? Because we don't have that storytelling anymore. We don't have the Homer's epic method of storytelling. We've replaced it with this instantaneous, all in your face. And to what extent can you represent an old epic classic that had its own conventions, its own style, its own historical baggage in a cinematic format that's designed not to remember anything, but to give you instantaneous experience?
Yeah.
But do you want to, because you probably know Christopher Nolan much better than I do, his work.
Yeah, I love him. He's one of my favorite directors.
But how do you think he balances this notion of memory? Because it's a theme in a lot of his films. But he's using a format which is cinema, which I think in some ways is anti-memory.
Yeah, so from what I understand from reading a lot of interviews with him, he is aware of this, and he does play on this. I think for him, he's obsessed with cinema as a kind of an ontological experience. You know, to sound a bit pretentious, but he has used this word as in cinema is very Hitchcockian. I mean, he's hugely influenced by Hitchcock himself, and he sees, you know, cinema as a framework through which we view kind of time. And every one of his films has kind of added an extra layer of complexity onto this concept of time. So I mean, I'd be very surprised if he himself didn't read Proust. But I don't know. I just don't know how he's going to do it with the Odyssey. I'm sure he's very intelligent, and he's going to have everything you've just said in mind when he's making this film, and he's going to know the potential pitfalls, and he's going to know the limits of cinema as a medium, which kind of might undermine the original text in itself. Well, of course it will do. It will filter it through the cinematic lens. But I don't know where he is in his career now. I think Tenet was a bit of a letdown. It was easy to lampoon it because it was like he took the concept of time going forwards and backwards as just so literally. It just didn't work, I don't think. Oppenheimer was obviously biographical, and it was more like an editing style. I personally think, I mean, I've deliberately not looked into this film as much as possible. I want it to be a surprise when I go into the cinema. But I personally think this is just a story he's very interested in. A bit like with Robert Eggers and Nosferatu, it was just something he was interested in, and he just wanted to do it in his particular style. So I think we might just end up with a big, big ticket summer special effects blockbuster with a few kind of, a few Easter eggs thrown in for the Nolan's fans. Or we could see something very epic, which it really takes his limits of time and cinema and puts something really interesting. But
Yeah, because I like to be
I don't know.
miserable. I wonder whether it's like I'm suggesting Proust's novel along with you, and this is why I'm making the link. James Joyce's Ulysses was the end of the novel. I just wonder whether, and maybe I'm being too
The end of Nolan.
Well, no, the end of cinema as we know it. Maybe his IMAX spectacular. If he pulls it off, it might be the last great film, because I just think people are struggling to get people into these cinemas anyway. And
Yeah.
IMAX seems to be the end of that process. What can you do that's so different to what you can see at home?
Yeah.
But so that's arguably, it could be, and this is the beauty of being able to discuss it endlessly before we actually see it, so we can't be told that we're wrong. We're just speculating. But it begs
podcasting.
it begs the question with reference to the Proust and the Madeleine. What extent is the story of the Madeleine, the way he describes the experience, it's in deeply psychological terms. To what extent is that a unique feature of the novel that Proust expressed just as the novel was coming to its natural end? To what extent could any other art form? So, for example, the Homer epic, the Odyssey, is about a storytelling. It's about the origins of individuality, Odysseus doing his own thing against the fate of the gods. It's about society breaking out of its old traditional format. And you're immersed in the story, but there's no great psychological insight. It's all about heroic deeds. It's about descriptions of action. Whereas the Madeleine episode in Proust couldn't be more insular.
So it's subjective, really, isn't it?
But this is the beauty. It's subjective, and so I was talking to you off camera about there's a philosopher called Friedrich Schelling, and it's weird. A certain era of German idealist philosophy, if you're in doubt, they all tend to be called Friedrich, in my experience.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
So there's a poet, Hölderlin, Friedrich Hölderlin, and so on. It's just endless. Schiller was for Friedrich as well, I think. So the Schiller was Schlegel. It sounds like a Yiddish pop song, doesn't it? The Schiller, Schlegel.
The Schiller band. Schiller's Traveling Minstrels.
But what would I put myself off with? Schelling. There's all these CHs, SCHs. But Schelling, he has this wonderful notion. And I think, again, it's relevant to this concept of the Madeleine and the experience. Schelling wrote about the ground of being, and I think it links to your interest in Heidegger, Stuart. But the ground of being, he described as this nothingness from which life emerges. And it sounds counterintuitive. How can there be nothing? But in terms of God, if you think of either God or infinity, it doesn't really matter whether you're an atheist, an agnostic, or you're a believer in God. But in terms of God, as Paul Tillich said, God doesn't exist, meaning God must precede existence, because only objects and people need to exist. God doesn't need to exist in the human sense. But in total atheistic or agnostic thought, we have this concept of our immediate senses and what we see of the world, and we think of that as the real world. But we have in philosophy, there's all these abstract thoughts of how we order it in our head. So for example, there are eternal notions. 2 and 2 equals 4. A perfectly straight line doesn't exist in nature, but it's eternally true in geometry. So you think the simplistic understanding of the world as a series of objects that we just look at as if we're in a cinema watching a Christopher Nolan film doesn't really work. There's always this balance between our notions of the eternal, whether it's geometry or maths or God, versus our actual experience. And this is true in the Madeleine episode, because Proust is experiencing the taste of this cake biscuit. But then also he's thinking back through time to a previous time. So it's almost like, I think I came across one phrase, Schelling talks almost in terms of dialogue, an interior dialogue when you're thinking. It's like your soul representing itself to itself.
Mm.
And he referred to, Schelling had this concept of the centripetal and the centrifugal. So there's an outward, he calls the Iliad, is this outward expression of activity, whereas Odysseus and the Odyssey is all about this centripetal, this inward motion towards thinking yourself, of yourself and your own interior thoughts. And Proust, I think the beauty of In Search of Lost Time is this constant interplay between the centrifugal and the centripetal.
Yeah, he does both.
Yeah, all the time. And it's this tension between the two is what I suggest makes it such a brilliant novel, probably the best.
Yeah.
And there's Paul, just to finish on this idea, Paul Tillich, which I'm going to be talking about in videos that are coming up. But Paul Tillich has this concept of the demonic. And the demonic in Tillich isn't, you know, devils versus God, blah, blah, blah. It's something much more subtle. He describes the concept of, in the world, there is a tension between the form of something, as I've been describing, like straight lines, or the concept of infinity, versus the actual physical content. Yeah. And he describes the demonic as those things which ruin creativity from within. So they find a way to exaggerate the form over the content. So rather than form and content being in constant tension, they will emphasize the form over everything. So in a modern context, we have bureaucracy taking over the world. We have health and safety. Everything becomes this rigid form over content. And the beauty of the Proust is that he manages the tension. He doesn't do this demonic thing. He doesn't give in. So the classic example in literature is the Grand Inquisitor in Dostoevsky. The Grand Inquisitor in Dostoevsky says, to Jesus Christ himself, I reject you because the form of the church and all the rules it imposes, we value more than God himself. And that's the truly demonic. And you could argue, and this is what I fear about the Christopher Nolan film, is he going to be imposing the form of cinema on one of the origin stories of Western culture,
like in a way, non-cinematic narrative being pigeonholed into his cinematic language, because he has his own cinematic language.
Exactly.
And he's fully aware of it.
And is he going to do something demonic in Paul Tillich's sense and impose his cinematic narrative on the ultimate narrative of Western culture? Whereas the beauty of Proust is he maintains the tension. It's both a novel, and he pays obeisance to the concept of the narrative form, literary conventions, but he introduces groundbreaking psychological insight, and he holds them in tension.
Yeah.
Neither one dominates. It's the creative, productive tension between the two.
Yeah.
Right, I've talked myself to a standstill. Should we actually look at the Madeleine?
Let's look at Madeleine's, but I know, just to quickly kind of bookend that, I fully agree with all those points, but I would also very quickly just note the technological limitations. Like IMAX maximum runtime, because of the actual projector and the setup, is 3 hours. So the film can't go for 3 hours. So you essentially have a very complex story that he's going to have to squeeze into 3 hours maximum, including credits.
And just to back you up, I was thinking before July 17th, I was thinking, what if I did each book of the Odyssey? Because you don't have the time, I have the time, and I will impose it on people, and I will drone on. But that would be... I was thinking I could probably do a half-decent account of each book in about, using your time frame, in about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But that would be 24. That would be 36 hours. Yeah. And that wouldn't be doing it full justice. So what I think I will end up doing is the first couple of books, just to show people how it could be done. Because I honestly don't think you're going to get everyone to go along with the ride with you.
No, I think it's one of those things you've got to be invested in. You've got to want to do it yourself. And maybe some videos on I guess, directing people how to read it, what to look out for, potentially what theoretical frameworks can help you understand it narratively.
Oh yeah, but what I really want to do is really want to do. I'm turned into a Spice Girl, but what I
zig
really
zig
want, I want to do a
not on
couple
camera, Paul.
You can't see what I'm wearing beneath the desk.
Oh no, good.
But no, what I am gonna do, I won't take my clothes off. What I am gonna do is do probably 2 videos on books 1 and 2, just to show what isn't done. If that makes sense. It's a very Irish way of thinking of it.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, to actually show people what they're missing when they get to see the Christopher Nolan thing. So maybe my odyssey will be to try and make people so desensitized or so sensitized to what they should be getting that when they spend a fortune to go and see the Christopher Nolan film, they'll be deeply, deeply disappointed. And maybe that will be my legacy.
I think that sounds like a plan, to be honest. No. I don't know what it's going to be like. I mean, every one of his films I've needed to watch 3 or 4 times to and you get more and more layers every time. I mean, for example, Interstellar, like the first time I watched Interstellar, didn't do it for me. Then went away and spent hours, if not days, reading analysis, reading interviews with him, what he was about, what he was trying to do. Second time I watched it, one of my favorite films. So,
right, should we do the Madeleine?
Yeah, let's go. Just going to reorientate. So I think it was page 56 in this one, wasn't it? We got up to from memory.
I think we finished with Dead Forever.
Dead Forever.
I see in the comments Vitalaus or Vitalaus. Vitlaus. I'm going to pronounce his name 8 different ways. But he's saying, I despise people who don't appreciate Interstellar. I think there's a demarcation dispute here because on this channel, I'm the one who does all the despising. Negative.
No, I like it. Yeah, no, just to clarify, I love it. But yeah, the first time I watched it, wasn't quite sure what was going on.
So in Proustian terms, Vitlaus despised the early Stuart, and he will forgive the later Stuart, who then appreciated Interstellar.
Exactly. Yeah, to paraphrase Heraclitus, no cinema viewer is the same cinema viewer twice.
You can't step into the same river of popcorn twice.
Could I tell a horrible story about cinemas before we move on?
Go on. Can I stop you?
Well, it's pretty disgusting. So when I was about 14, 15 years old, I went to the cinema. I think it was to see something random like The Exorcist, when The Exorcist got re-released. And halfway through, I went to the bathroom. And as I came out of the bathroom, I was like, whoa,
no. Can I stop you now?
It was horrible. I vividly remember that was the worst cinema experience. It wasn't a bad film or someone kicking my seat or things like that. But yeah, I stood in
right. Well, thanks for that. Thank you very much indeed. That's Stuart raising the tone of the discussion as he tends to do. You idiot. Right. So what have you got up?
Permanently Dead, because you've got different translations.
Yeah, I've got a slightly different translation. Dead Forever, very possibly. But then he goes on to, and this is why I'm going to justify my initial monologue about myth, because he then goes on to talk about, I feel that there is much to be said for the Celtic belief that the souls of those whom we have lost are held captive in some inferior being, in an animal, in a plant, in some inanimate object. And that is the Homerian, in Homer's stories. And if you think of Ovid's Metamorphoses, the idea that there are God forces in nature, gods are immanent, they're everywhere, within everything. And there isn't, as I said before, this distance, this conceptual distance between the immanence of primal God forces and humanity. They're all thrown in together. And yes, theoretically, the gods are on Mount Olympus, but they also interfere in people's lives all the time. The Mount Olympus seems a very abstract place. And one way of thinking about it was this lack of memory distance. Someone was describing how the ancient, I think it was Eric Heller in a book called The Disenchanted Mind, he was saying the Greeks associated Alexander the Great with Dionysus, the god.
Yeah.
They saw him as almost like a reincarnation of the same type of personality.
Yeah.
They didn't tend to see it was Herodotus, the Greek historian, arguably the first historian, who quite arrogantly said, I'm not going to refer to previous times because nothing important happened. So Herodotus was the first person who thought in chronological historical times, and arguably. Whereas what you're getting described by Proust here is this mythical idea that he's almost returning to, but then he's adding modern psychological insight as well.
Yeah.
So my point being that people might think, why was Paul wittering on really annoyingly about Schelling, about all these things, about Homer? But it's actually in here. This is, the background intellectual context. And again, it's about this when I was talking about the tension between form and content. Proust is reflecting upon previous archaic ways of thinking and existing, and then almost immediately comparing and contrasting it with the experience of eating a cake biscuit.
Yeah.
And he's holding all these things in tension, which is, I think, what makes it a wonderful piece of writing.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, do you keep up with like the latest empirical research into like self, identity and stuff like that? So
I do
more
stuff
coming
on
from the hard sciences.
Well, I do. Well, the closest I'd get is philosophy of mind, Daniel Dennett type stuff, and neuroscience. And where I find
exactly.
where I also find it interesting is there is there's cognitive linguistics, which fascinates me because it's all about the way in which the human brain, arguably, it's anti-Chomsky, but there are various people saying that the foundational ways of thinking, part of our brain evolved, the size of our brain evolved concomitantly at the same time as our facility with language. So people have this idea that human beings have brains and then we develop language. There are quite scientific arguments to suggest our brains evolved in combination with the facility for language.
Yeah.
And that adds a whole new dimension to concepts of the self, because our concepts of self are intrinsically linked to our ability to verbalize or to conceptualize using language.
Yeah.
So sorry, did I cut you across?
No, you basically partly answered my question, but at the same time, there's a lot of stuff coming through now based on quantum physics, quantum field theory, and things like this, which is really upending the concept of what is a physical object, what is a physical thing. So philosophy, especially continental philosophy, has pointed this out decades, centuries ago, that language does not accurately represent the phenomenon and things that we see. It's a representation, but now actual hard science, which critiqued and kind of, I guess, denigrated continental philosophy. The data and the evidence coming out now is actually kind of, in a sense, justifying what people like we're into, what we're talking about. And I just find it fascinating. We're suddenly getting this reconvergence. So, for example, this passage here, this concept of something being something else, or a shadow memory of an echo, like existing in an object, we're actually finding through quantum theory that it's not actually far off the case. That can be demonstrated scientifically.
Yeah, like Daniel Dennett has concepts of multiple draft theory.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, whereas for those who aren't familiar, the idea is that we don't just experience, like it's called the Cartesian theatre. I might talk about this in tomorrow's video. But the Cartesian theatre is this idea there's somebody in our head looking at the world like someone in a cinema. Whereas they reckon that the cognitive physiological way we experience the world is much more fragmented and broken down. So one example might be the way our eyes are constructed. We only have so many colored rods that allow us to process color at the back of our eye. And what the brain does is fill in the rest. So you think you're seeing something, assuming you're not colorblind. If you see something, you're only physically seeing about 2/3 of it in color. The rest of it, as your eye sees it, as far as they can tell scientifically, is quite blurred and uncolored. And your brain fills in the rest, which goes to your point. We're not seeing objectively as people think we do.
Yeah, we're seeing an illusion, a construct.
Oh, yeah, and our brains are contributing to the inverted commas narrative or story. And this is the way I think Proust has an intuitive understanding of these processes. But I just do find it interesting. Sorry to repeat myself, but this bit you've got highlighted, the Celtic, or the Celtic. I'm thinking of football. The Celtic belief. Don't mention football. Liverpool lost last night. They're awful.
Oh, I know. I saw that.
Oh,
Never
God.
mind.
Anyway, quickly moving on. The Celtic belief, this idea of, and the way he goes on to describe his experience of thinking back in time, it does go to, if you think of it from a modern Western perspective, the Celtic belief that there are spirits in inanimate objects. I think it's a beautiful way to set up the rest of the story of the Madeleine, because in an inanimate object, he's going to describe how it comes alive.
Yeah.
And that is true. Psychologically, that's true, even though this scientific obsession with measuring everything. Again, I'm going to talk about this tomorrow, hopefully, but it's the idea that it's a different form of myth. When you fetishize or you reify or you ossify, I'm trying to think of as many pretentious words as I can. If you limit our understanding of the world to the scientific measurement and objectivity of everything, that's actually a new form of myth. Because what it doesn't allow is anything outside of the scientific method. And because you fear what can't be measured. And that's what the ancients feared. They feared the wind, earthquake, so they gave them personalities in the form of the gods. And that's what he starts with here, which I think is a really clever thing to do. Where are we? So he describes they start and they tremble, they call us by our name, and as soon as we've recognized their voice, the spell is broken. Delivered by us, they have overcome death and returned to share our life. And so it is with our own past. It is a labour in vain to attempt to recapture it. All the efforts of our intellect must prove futile, which is, I think, what I basically alluded to just then. The past is hidden somewhere outside the realm, beyond the reach of intellect. And that's why people fear it, I'd argue. In some material object, in the sensation which that material object will give us, which we do not suspect. And as for that object, it depends on chance whether we come upon it or not before we ourselves must die. And I think that's quite an important point. I don't know about you, but the extent to which fortuitous circumstances, or I suppose in cinematic terms, it would be the sliding door phenomena, can actually, they determine your life. We think we try and plan our lives, we try and, get careers or families and whatever. But actually, if you look back, some of the most profound things that happened in your life had nothing to do with conscious choice.
Yeah. I mean, this is the hallmark of East Asian philosophy, and things like Taoism and many aspects of Buddhism. There's a deep understanding of this, that striving and trying and trying to physically make something happen is actually at times futile, and sometimes, like you say, like life just happens and you really have no control over it.
So when I sit on the couch most days just dribbling on myself, watching YouTube videos, I'm actually an advanced Buddhist practitioner. Is that what you're telling me?
Exactly, yeah. You're following the way Wu Wei in Taoism, the Taoist dribbler. But this is this archetype in East Asian thought of the enlightened beggar, the person who goes into the mountains and grows a beard and just sits around getting drunk. And I think in Chinese philosophy, it's like the 8 drunken immortals. It's this idea of just completely losing your mind in a Dionysian way and being out in nature and stop striving and just let the world happen around you.
And I suppose a halfway house in that would be Diogenes living in his barrel.
He was basically the ancient Greek version of, like, I think it's the beggar Su or beggar soul character in Chinese mythology.
Or you've mentioned before, but I like to think of Diogenes as Rabsi Nesbit in a barrel. Or Rabsi Nesbit was a Diogenes.
Rabsi Nesbit was the reincarnation of Diogenes, yeah.
You heard that here first, people.
No.
Where are we? Yeah,
I think this is worth exploring just very quickly, Paul. Like just again, it's like, I wonder whether Proust is here he's obviously, we talk about the Madeleine, But I'm wondering if this object doesn't necessarily have to be a physical object. It could just be, like you said, like a moment in time, a point, a liaison, a chance meeting or something like that. It's just some spark that kind of reignites the memory.
Well, yeah, as you get older, 'cause I'm not that old, believe it or not. I know I look it, but as I've got older, I have noticed because you're living in the moment much more when you're younger.
Yeah.
Just random memories, things that I had no idea I'd ever remember. There's a difference, but I think we might have even briefly spoken about this. But there's a difference between, and it's in Proust's book, when you deliberately try and remember, for example, an aspect of your childhood. But I've got vivid memories of my childhood that in and of themselves weren't significant events. They were very random and arbitrary, but they've stayed with me for reasons I'm not fully sure of. And then on a day-to-day basis, as well as forgetting why you've walked into a room, which is a sign of getting older, but also memories that just, random, absolutely random, arbitrary flashes of something that's happened in the past that isn't stimulated by anything directly.
It just comes like all of a sudden.
Yeah, it couldn't be more random. It couldn't be more unsolicited. And this is, I think, what Proust is doing a halfway house, because with this notion of the Madeleine, there is a physical stimulus.
It's a trigger that can be quantified. So you think this has caused this, but yeah, like you said, I think most of the time these involuntary memories, they just happen and you don't know what's triggered it.
But I think this risks just exploring my advancing senility. So I think we should quickly move on.
Let's go past.
So many years had elapsed during which nothing of Combray, save what was comprised in the theatre and the drama of my going to bed there. Yeah, I think we've dealt with that, mate.
Let's not go back to the bed.
Yeah, you big bedwetter. Had any existence for me. By the way, we haven't seen Incontinent J from Texas. Talking about bedwetting, he's let us down today.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be late there, isn't it?
No, early. It's going to be 7. He said he wakes up at 7 in the morning because he's wet the bed.
Oh, no.
So I hope he's okay.
Yeah, he'll be back.
So that's Incontinent J from Texas has heckled us from the shelling-like abyss, the ground of J's being. Right, stop heckling myself. The theatre and the drama I going to bed there had any existence for me when one day in winter as I came home, my mother, seeing that I was cold, offered me some tea, a thing I did not ordinarily take. What a Philistine. I declined at first, and then, I don't know why, and again, that's the arbitrary nature of it, isn't it? I don't know why, changed my mind. She sent out for one of those short, plump little cakes or biscuits called Petite Madeleine, which look as though they'd been moulded in the fluting scallop of a pilgrim's shell. And that is, apparently, in my notes here, in early drafts, the memory-triggering device was a humble piece of toast, which
Hovis extra thick.
Oh, God, Stuart, you're so middle class. Hovis. You mean really cheap Warburtons?
Oh, Tesco special. Was it Tesco value bread? Oh, man. That was student days, that.
Yeah, but there's something about a fry-up. If you have a fry-up, you can only have it with, like, really squidgy, cheap bread. Like a fry-up with, like...
Not in my house!
No, but then you wouldn't have a fry-up, would you, in a posh house?
No.
But a fry-up with, like, proper sourdough bread or wholemeal bread, I would humbly suggest is an abomination.
Well, if you're doing, like, French toast or if you're doing, like, fried bread, it doesn't absorb the oil as much. So you need that cheapy, white, kind of fluffy, cakey bread that only Tesco value can provide.
I'm now going off on, I've got Proustian memories, not of Madeleines, but really oily, greasy, hangover cure, fry-ups.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I don't eat them anymore. So I think I told you I basically turned vegetarian a few years ago, so I haven't eaten bacon for years, but I used to love that fry-up. Yeah, after a night out, you wake up in the morning.
Can we completely stop the discussion now and inquire as to why you've gone all... I'm careful what I say here, but you've gone all non-meat eatery.
Non-meaty. I don't know. Just stopped liking it. I think it's more to do with like industrial farming. So yeah, just
Right.
it's something I've been tracking for a while, and just I was like, it's not so healthy. It's more red meat, chicken, pork, stuff like that. It's just for healthy, because I have weird like cholesterol. I mean, it's again just getting older, but I think avoiding anything that increases cholesterol's helped as well.
All right. All right. Well,
Yeah, I don't know. So partly ethical reasons, partly health reasons.
yeah, I'm torn, but I remember seeing, as I watched these endless YouTube videos, I think it was an Australian farmer, and he was arguing with a woman about who was advocating almond milk or whatever, and he basically said to
Oh,
her,
that's bad stuff.
yeah, but he was also saying, look, you don't understand, even to grow soybeans or anything, what a farmer has to do to prepare a field will kill so much, small animals. And
Exactly.
he says you're living in la la land if you think even the most basic agriculture isn't killing things.
Yeah.
But I do accept with, you see, I'd eat, I don't want to put people off the channel, but bovine creatures like cows, I'd eat them till the cows come home, using the deliberate pun. But I do feel incredibly guilty about pigs because they're as intelligent as dogs, and I feel really mean about that. That
Exactly.
is, like, I live around sheep all the time, and I don't mind eating them because they are beyond thick. So maybe I have this horrible Darwinian, it's basically the IQ of the animal and my willingness to eat it.
No, it's true. I mean, octopus as well. I mean, octopus is really popular in Spain, but I just don't eat it because as soon as they prove they have intelligence of a border collie, a 7-year-old child or something, it's like they look weird. But I'm not going to eat that. I'm not going to
We
eat
should try and
something
get one on
intelligent.
the channel.
You can get them fresh in the supermarkets here, and if you go
What,
to the
you could put one next to you.
big giant thing, just lift it up and just put it on my head or something like that. I don't know. that should get some clicks. Proust and the pulpo.
Do they make clicky sounds, octopi?
I don't know. I've never been down to see one in the wild.
I bet they're brilliant with a mouse though on the computer, like all 8 of them.
Yeah, they can do all sorts of things. They can solve puzzles. There's like videos on YouTube, like National Geographic Channel. They're solving like Rubik's cubes and stuff like that. I mean, I'm sure they're aliens. I'm sure that all these UFOs. I think it's just something coming from outer space and dropping octopi into the sea.
Well, they had that one, didn't they? Have the one that was predicting the World Cup games as they went along.
Yeah.
Was that in the Korean World Cup?
It would have been Korea because they eat them live there. They eat them raw. You've seen Old Boy, haven't you?
Yeah.
The film. Yeah, no. When I was living in Korea, they had restaurants. I think it's called Nakji restaurants. And it was just live octopus. Like, yeah, interesting. Not something I'd want to eat. The tentacles get stuck in your throat on the way down. People choke and die on them.
Well, that's happened to me with a sausage sandwich once, and that's not a euphemism. It was an actual sausage sandwich, and I almost died. I was alone in the house, and I ran out into the road, and there's a woman in her kitchen because I live in a small village, and she was looking at me like I was bonkers. And luckily, yeah, but as I ran out into the road, because I was panicking, I was throwing myself against the wall inside.
Yeah,
trying to dislodge it, like do it. You see, it's really difficult to do the Heimlich maneuver on yourself.
Exactly.
Again, that's not a euphemism. And
you just like running around the street like this, trying to like hug yourself.
No, it was the act. It was the act of running outside dislodged it. Yeah. But I just thought, what a ridiculous way to die. You're in the middle of a street, frantically pointing at yourself.
Oh,
it's a horrible feeling.
Yeah, what a way to die, yeah.
Yeah, choking on a piece of bloody fried sausage. Anyway, happy memories. It's not exactly Proust, but
it's related. I mean, a madeleine or madeleine, it's a bit softer, isn't it? So I think it might be a bit harder to choke on.
Right, but just so we can be vaguely intellectual again. So it was originally a humble piece of toast, which is vaguely amusing, which Proust changed later to little madeleine cakes that are in the shape of scallop shells. Such shells are the emblem of St. James, Jacques in French, and were worn in the Middle Ages by pilgrims on the way to Santiago de Compostela. The church of Saint-Jacques in Combray, as its name indicates, was a stopping point on the major pilgrim route to Spain. One sees such scallop shells in the church at Combray on the statue of Saint-Jacques, whose pilgrim's cloak they adorn. So there you go, everything you ever wanted to know about scallops.
I wonder what the significance is then, because obviously he talked about the church quite a lot, doesn't he? And obviously, you've read this before, the full 6 volumes or 7 volumes, depending how you measure it. So, is this a symbol that comes up later on, the scallop shell?
he's got the church thing, because the church is in the next section, and I can't remember whether it comes out later on in the book, but the church, he's talking to the Baron de Charlus, and I've used it as an epigraph certain ways, where he talks about cathedrals need to be protected until the time when to preserve them. We need to deny the things they teach, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I did a whole video on this, the concept of, I think Proust was a Christian atheist. He wasn't a believer, or he was a Christian agnostic. I always, try and distinguish between the two. But there is this thing that you don't have to be a believer to understand the significance and importance of the culture and the buildings. And Proust wrote very movingly, I quoted it in the video, but he did a whole paper. In France, I think it was 1905, they passed a bill where they separated church and state. So in debates about the Islamification of France, you'll see arguments about, what do they call it, laïcité?
Yeah.
The laity, the idea of the importance of secularism. And he wrote a passionate piece for, I think it was Figaro, the newspaper, where he was saying that a properly conducted mass in a French cathedral is more impressive than a Wagner piece of work. So he thought very strongly that the whole religious element, again, it's a fascinating thing that someone like Proust, in 6 whole volumes, could intersperse, along with all the sexual deviancy that he describes that should keep people reading.
Yeah.
There is this, and I think that's one of the interesting elements. I've always said that the concept of transgression, you only get a sense of transgression if there's an ideal against which you're operating.
Exactly, yeah.
So I think in the gay community, there was a famous film from the 1940s called Brief Encounter. Do you remember it?
I've never seen it, no.
Well, it's a fascinating story. It's black and white and beautifully done. It's a doctor, and there's a woman whose husband is very humdrum. You keep seeing him at the beginning and the end of the film, and he's doing crossword puzzles, smokes a pipe, and has slippers. And she meets this doctor who's about to go to Africa to do some missionary work. And they flirt at a train station. I think that's where they bump into each other. And it's all in stilted, repressed, received pronunciation. It's things like, would you like another cup of tea, darling? Yes, please. I would like that. And they go to his friend's flat to have an assignation, but the friend comes back. So they don't. So it's never consummated. And I remember reading some of that in the gay community. It was like a cult film at the time, because it was all about repression and transgression and the forbidden love. And now you think of your average pride march in San Francisco or somewhere where there's men in dog leads and all sorts.
Very, very overt, yeah.
Yeah, but the important point is, within the gay community, I've read people saying, well, we've lost the whole transgressive energy, is
subtlety,
gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
If everything is allowed, what's the fun?
Yeah, no, thanks for the recommendation. I just got it up on another tab. I'll check that out later.
You want to go to San Francisco Pride March?
No, the film.
In a dog lead?
No, I've been there, done that.
Yeah. Sit.
Yeah, not my scene. Yeah, I honestly, I'm very open in each to their own. Whatever people want to do, what people get off on. But yeah, just some of these like fetishes, just yeah.
Well, there's a British comedian, Leo Kearse, and it's quite a funny argument. But he basically said that there shouldn't be pride, and it's not an anti-gay comment the way I mean it. Honestly, he's talking about there should be a shame march rather than a pride march, and the point is that we've lost an ability to feel ashamed.
Yeah,
and that is an interesting social dynamic. Shame isn't useless. Shame isn't important. And my point to the more deviant people out there is, I'm not arguing against deviancy. I'm suggesting deviancy requires shame and an ability to feel that you're transgressing. Yep. Otherwise, what are you pushing back against? Yep. If everything goes, nothing's interesting anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I think we talked about this previously a few weeks or months ago. It's like I grew up with a lot of gay friends when I was at university, and had a lot of conversations very similar to this. Like a lot of them weren't really into like this very overt kind of pride scene, very very visual like overt side of things. But a lot of them said to me it was kind of like there's a lot of overcompensation for this kind of regressed shame, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I think it hits the nail on the head.
Quickly moving on, because I hear euphemisms and everything. So where are we? And soon, mechanically weary after a dismal day with the prospect of a depressing morrow, I raised to my lips a spoonful of the tea in which I had soaked a morsel of the madeleine. No sooner had the warm liquid mixed with the crumbs of the cake. And by the way, I'm going to interrupt myself. That discussion, we'll get onto it later on, I'm sure. But it's not a facetious or a flippant discussion about gay culture, because riddled throughout the book later on are, quite involved descriptions of both lesbianism and gay men.
Yep.
And the Baron de Charlus is a classic example of that. So and again, because I mentioned in the next section, there is a whole long description of the church at Combray. And then later, I think this is what people might be surprised by as they get into the novel. There will be these really innocent descriptions of the beauty of a church and the sun coming through stained glass from a child's point of view. And then all of a sudden, as I think we've alluded to before, you have this lesbian scene where a woman spits on a photograph of her father. And it goes to my point about transgression. It wouldn't be as shocking, the description of the girl spitting on the photograph, if you hadn't had this very innocent description of the church and everything it stands for. And I just think on a general point, it's what modern society has lost. It's lost that tension.
Yep, absolutely.
So basically, I think I'm basically doing a party political broadcast for the Deviant Party, and in order to reclaim deviancy, you need more traditional, sanctified values.
Yeah, well, it's kind of that like position in the middle, like I guess that dialectical space. You need two opposites, whereas obviously with modern culture, everything's been reduced to a bland kind of normative without tension.
Yeah, I just think the deviant culture being in the middle is not a great position to be, but we can disagree about that.
Yeah, make it squished.
Yeah, so I raised to my lips a spoonful of the tea in which I had soaked a morsel of the madeleine. Stop putting me off. No sooner had the warm liquid mixed with the crumbs of the cake touched my palate than a shudder ran through my whole body, and I stopped intent on the extraordinary changes that were taking place in me. An exquisite pleasure had invaded my senses, but individual, detached, with no suggestion of its origin. At once the vicissitudes of life had become indifferent to me, its disasters innocuous, its brevity illusory, this new sensation having had on me the effect that love has of filling me with a precious essence, or rather, this essence was not in me, it was me. So that sounds like, from my perspective, that sounds very Schopenhauer. From your perspective, you're a lot more touchy-feely, Eastern European.
Eastern European.
I was going to say Eastern European. No, I didn't mean Eastern European. I meant Eastern philosophical mind bent, aren't you?
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, I think what Schopenhauer's talking about and what some kind of Lao Tzu or the Tao Te Ching is talking about is very, very similar experience. It's just the response, and I think Eastern philosophy is more akin to working with this thing called the way. The universe happens in a way. Don't resist it. Just go with the flow. As obviously Schopenhauer, he formulates the will as something malicious, whereas Eastern philosophy formulates it as just something that is, and it's not really something to fight against it. Schopenhauer wants to retreat from it, but Eastern religion says that you can't retreat from it because you are always in it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But I think what's happening here with Proust is, I don't know, I kind of see this passage as more like maybe a false moment of completeness. Like Proust is talking about feeling that he with this bit at the end, it was me. it's like an experience of some kind of totality or completion that is still a subjective human experience. So I think it's alluding to like he's touching the absolute, he's touching reality, the divine, but I still think this moment is still a subjective experience. Does that make
No,
any
it
sense?
is. Yeah, except to defend Proust, I think it's in Paul Tillich's work as well, where he talks about you can momentarily touch the ineffable.
Yeah.
So this idea, the absolute is not obtainable, but you do, even if it's slightly illusionary, you do get at least a hint.
You get a wave of it, yeah.
Because he describes, I think it's I'm trying to remember. It wasn't Botticelli. There's a famous painting. It's the Virgin Mary and the Singing Angels, or something it's called. And he saw it. He was traumatized, Paul Tillich, by. He was a chaplain in the First World War, so he was on the front and saw terrible things. One of his friends was killed, and he tried to distract himself. He had magazines with lots of artworks, and at one point, I think it was shortly after the war, he went to a museum and saw a picture of the Virgin Mary and these singing angels, or the singing children, and he had a moment that is very similar to the one described by Proust. And I think Proust's genius is the way Tillich describes it. It's this momentarily ecstatic revelation. So the Old Testament prophets had a revelation from God. Yeah. Tillich saying that's not available to us in the modern world, but you can have at least a hint of it through great art. Yeah. And I think what Proust is doing is the bathos. You can also find it in such small things as what would have been a piece of toast if you'd have been a bit braver.
Yeah. So just to clarify, Paul, that this is not the sublime, is it? Because the sublime would have some. I trying to think of the right words. I don't want to be too kind of crude or reduce the experience itself, but there's an element of fear or terror, or the awe when you experience the sublime. This is like a different feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, I think this is more aesthetically enjoyable, and you feel
like pleasurable.
More, in the moment, and you feel. I think the word you used was complete. The notion of the sublime, it's been interpreted by so many different people, but the one I find most useful is the idea that I think it's in Immanuel Kant's work, the dynamic sublime and the mathematical sublime, but it's the idea that your brain can't process it. So rather than be overcome, your brain translates the feeling of not being able to conceptualize it because it's overwhelming into a feeling of aesthetic enjoyment. So I'm just wondering, this is what I mean, why this description of just taking the piece of cake is... I've talked on my channel before about being in the north face of the Grand Canyon and having this moment where it was just incredible. And the genius of Proust is he's describing a piece of cake, but it's the same overall feeling of oneness. Yeah. My way of describing it was, when I was at the Grand Canyon, I felt reassuringly insignificant. And to relate it to this specific thing, he actually says, this is what I think is really accurate. At once the vicissitudes of life had become indifferent to me, its disasters innocuous, its brevity illusory. For me, that's the crucial phrase, because my experience at the Grand Canyon was, I just thought, why? It sounds like that stupid pop song, Why Worry? Don't worry about a ting. Everything's going to be all right. It was just this...
It's like the removal of anxiety. I mean, if we go back to like Kierkegaard or someone like that, where anxiety is a very important component, and Heidegger as well, anxiety is a very important component of human existence. But then this moment we're talking about now is almost like the removal of anxiety and doubt. And again, completeness is the only descriptive word I could think that fits it.
Well, again, I think what interests me about this specifically is in Schelling, there's this constant... Schelling's writing about the human relationship, the tension between the infinite and the finite. And nothing could be more finite than a crumbling bit of wet cake. And yet it's giving rise to these thoughts of infinity. And back to the Grand Canyon, I think, and the way he's saying, I no longer, the vicissitudes of life had become indifferent to me. It's an experience of the infinite that at least momentarily makes you forget all human concerns and anxiety are rooted, even if they're thoughts about the infinite, they're rooted in the day-to-day feeling of being finite.
Yeah.
And what he's saying is momentarily his feeling of being finite lost its purchase on him. So your point about you no longer feel anxious if all these disasters seem innocuous.
Well, it's like the false dichotomy of the finite and the infinite almost like collapses in this moment of eating the cake.
Yeah, and I think that's also, Tillich talks about the demonic as the tension is destroyed in favor of the false solution. Whereas the demonic is in opposition to what's being described here. Tillich would describe as a feeling of grace, a feeling of the divine, a feeling of the infinite at peace with itself.
This Tillich demonic thing it does sound kind of like parallel to kind of Gnosticism, doesn't it? Christian Gnosticism, this idea of like an archon is like a false authenticity or a false reality. It's something representing what should be true and whole, but it's actually kind of a false image that blocks or kind of it stops the revealing of like a bigger, truer picture.
Yeah, because correct me if I'm wrong, but the demiurge is the maker.
It's the false maker. Yeah, it's like a lower level.
And Tillich's precise definition of the demonic from memory is the idea that it's the false creation. You're right, because the notion of the demonic is, in creativity, there is this constant relationship between form and content. So great artists use the limitations of the form they're operating in to exploit their almost limitless imagination.
Yep.
And it's the interaction between the conventions and the limitations of the form and genre they're operating in and the unlimited nature of their imagination. And they use that for creative purposes that are noble and exalting and can, as Proust does, approach the infinite. The demiurge, the demonic for Tillich, is the idea that creativity is used to destroy itself. So bureaucracy, the Grand Inquisitor destroying the Godhead with the church and the institution rather than the truth behind the institution, which again goes to Proust's epigraph that I always use. We need to protect the cathedrals until the day when... Sorry, we need to defend the cathedrals or value the cathedrals until the day when, in order to protect them, we need to deny the truths they teach. That's the Grand Inquisitor. That's the demiurge.
Going back to this concept then, Paul, I think essentially this takes on quite a profound meaning in terms of the cathedral aspect, because I think what you're saying is fundamentally Proust is saying that the cathedral itself as object holds this transcendental truth, just like the madeleine or the madeleine holds a subjective transcendental truth.
Well, it's not insignificant in the later, we're jumping ahead slightly, but in the section immediately after the one we're looking at, there's the description of the church. I found the most affecting description of the church at Combray are the way in which the sun comes through the stained glass windows.
Yep.
Because that is, I think, again, sorry to keep referring back to Tillich, but I think he's a really interesting writer or theologian. His notion is you see the divine light manifested in the physical. So the divine experience, it's not the stained glass window on its own. It's not the divine light. It's not looking directly at the sun. You see the divine light emanating from the stained glass. And it's like is it St. Paul's letter to the Corinthians? Now we see through a glass darkly, but in future we will, I'm paraphrasing awfully, we will see clearly. When we confront God, we will see God in his full divine glory. But in the meantime, we see life as through a glass darkly.
Yep.
And so you can see through the glass darkly. If your glass is half full, then that's Tillich's notion of the light coming through the stained glass window.
Yeah, that's right.
you're not seeing divinity, but you're seeing its emanation. And again, you don't have to be religious. I think Proust is, I don't think anyone could say Proust is writing from a theological point of view about the Madeleine. But it is this human characteristic. How do we relate ourselves as finite beings to the concept of the infinite?
Yeah.
And he's just doing it. He's beautifully.
He's doing it with a cake and a cup of tea. What a pro.
It's very British, isn't it? You can't do it with a cup of tea.
Can you imagine a British version of Proust where it's called Combray is like, I don't know, Halifax, Yorkshire. I sit down with my mum. She poured out cup of Yorkshire tea. We had one of them really good cakes from Down Road.
And a lump of lard.
Lump of lard on top.
Luxury.
Yeah, bag them. And she bought all this. What a star.
You had tea? Luxury. But the North Americans might recognise that's an allusion to the Monty Python sketch about who had the toughest upbringing.
That's it. Oh, yeah. I was as a Yorkshireman. I think that's one of the funniest comedy sketches of all time because everything about it is true.
Right, where are we? So
this is where he tries to force it coming back. We're up to the bit where he's had this experience, which one could argue to be some kind of touching the infinite. And then he tries to kind of force it again.
Have you jumped ahead?
No, I don't think so.
Yes, you have.
Have I? I hope not.
Jumped the gun. What about I had ceased to feel mediocre, contingent, mortal? So we've had
here we go.
Yeah, we've had the epiphanic moment. It was me. It was not in me. It was me. I had ceased to feel mediocre, contingent, mortal. Whence could it have come to me, this all-powerful joy? I sensed that it was connected with the taste of tea and cake, but that it infinitely transcended those savours, could not be of the same nature. Whence did it come? And again, this is Schelling. The ground of being, the abyss of being. Where does this come from? It's both, it doesn't exist, but it does.
I've had this experience many times in my life, Paul. I think it was kind of why I was drawn to Heidegger, because this is what Heidegger talks about. And I've tried to think of it. I understand this as probably where religious, I guess, transcendental experiences come from. It's a phenomenon in a sense that can be described in religious terms or it can be described in scientific terms. But it's a phenomenon nonetheless. And is it, scientists would talk about this is in terms of neurotransmitters in the brain, serotonin, oxytocin. A Christian would talk about this is, being, emanation of Jesus or the Holy Spirit or something like that. But I think it is a real phenomenon, what Proust is talking about here. That is very, very hard to explain, but I think it's fundamental to the concept of self.
Well, yeah, it goes to the, a certain someone's made fun of me about my obsession with cave paintings.
Yeah.
Which I've done a few times on the channel, but it's just I always go back to, they've gone deep into the bowels of the earth without modern lighting and painted these amazing artworks. So even the most primeval human beings, some of the first symbols that have ever been found have been in a place at which they're obviously relating to a sense of the beyond.
Yep.
So it's quite strong, not conclusive, but I'd argue it's quite strong evidence that a most atavistic level, human beings need this sense of the beyond.
Yeah. I think that's Heidegger's main argument in his philosophy. He's trying to reclaim the beyond from a tradition, a metaphysical tradition that is focused solely on things, on beings.
What was that stupid film, the animated film about Woody and they had the astronaut from was it From Eternity and Beyond? What's that catchphrase in the film?
Buzz Lightyear, yeah.
Buzz Lightyear.
Toy Story series, yeah. I think they're up to number 5 or number 6 now. I've got 1 to 4, but I'm sure there's 2 more after that.
What was the catchphrase?
To infinity and beyond.
There you go. So again, these profound theological thoughts reduced to Hollywood crap.
To kids' films, yeah.
I suppose that's the advantage of having a kid. You can claim that you're watching all this stuff for the child.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some kids' films I wouldn't show him. Watership Down. That I remember watching that far too young. An existential meditation on the futility of life and the temporality of existence. Like
You see, but
this
this is what.
is a
But
friendly bunny film.
no, but Stuart, this is why you and I are so different. I watched Watership Down as a small child and laughed hysterically all the way through it, and was shocked to be told it was a tragic story.
No, it is. I remember watching it for the first time, and the bright eyes, and because I have a cuddly
I've
rabbit.
done that as a club singer.
Really? Very nice. Yeah, I remember being in tears afterwards. I got up to my mum saying, "What is death?" In fact, this is probably why I'm fascinated in
What
the
did your mum
philosophy
say?
I'm
Watch it
into.
again. Watch it
She's
again, you
like,
weakling.
"Oh, I don't know. Don't ask me." I mean, my mum was a PE teacher, so she didn't think on this level, bless her. But yeah, I remember having nightmares about it.
God, you
Great
really are a
film.
wimp.
One of my favorites. No.
No, it's. But this is what's gone wrong with children today. You should make your son watch it from dawn till dusk until it completely desensitizes him. Trust me, I'm an expert on child development.
You're the sort of dad who would
what could possibly go wrong, Stuart? Listening to my child rearing advice.
just leave some like horror film Blu-rays like just lying around the house. Hey, go son, watch that one, yeah. Freddy Krueger, yeah, he's all right. Him.
I can't even control two dysfunctional staffy bull terriers.
Oh yeah, no, kids are on another level.
Yeah.
Dogs are much easier.
Although, just from a purely intellectual point of view, it would be fascinating if I had have brought up children. What Frankenstein-like monsters they would have become.
Well, you'd be surprised. I mean, I think once you actually have a kid, it's like your whole like mind changes. I mean, I think we talked about it before. One of my favorite films is Eraserhead, and I understood what Eraserhead was about the second my son was born. I was like, all right, now I know what David Lynch is talking about. And he's been very, I mean, he's dead now, bless him, but he was very coy his whole life not to explicate what Eraserhead is about. But it's so clearly about becoming a parent for the first time.
All right.
Yeah. Rewatch it. It makes sense. It makes total sense.
We're going to rename this podcast Feelings with Stuart and Not So Much Paul.
Feelings and no feelings.
Who sang that? Feelings. Oh, my life. Feelings.
You by the sounds of it. Is that your one-hit wonder in Slovakia?
It's quite ironic. Like when I sing like that, I actually make people stop feeling.
You made them run out the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, where are we? You put me off.
I think we go down to a drink, a second mouthful now.
No, I think you're still jumping ahead. I'm not having it. Yeah, whence did it come? What did it signify? How could I grasp it? Now we say, I drink a second mouthful in which I find nothing more than in the first, a third. Which
Jay's here. Woohoo! Paul Jay's here. Hi, Jay. How are you doing?
We've been
awake. He's alive.
His ears were burning. We were making fun of incontinent Jay. Right, you're gonna have to troll back later, Jay, and see how we were making fun of you.
Yeah, we got to give you a shout out.
Right, Jay's just put us off. Yeah. Right. The power. So he tries it a third time, which gives me rather less than the second. It's time for me to stop.
What about the second time? I don't think we've done the second mouthful. Don't jump ahead to the third mouthful. You just accused me of jumping ahead, and now you're bloody going on to the third.
No, it's like this is just making me think of Nigerian Guinness, so I'm getting all excited.
Yeah, but it's not lunchtime yet. you know what the doctor said. No drinking before 12. Think of the liver, Paul. Think of the liver.
No, seriously, it's the only thing that saved my liver is the fact I've always been. I can't drink during the day. I just fall asleep. So as a student and stuff, I had to be after dinner was the only time I could start drinking. So
it's weird that, isn't it? It's like, I wonder why that effect is. I'm the same.
Yeah, but I know loads of people when I was at college who just like could drink all day. Ooh. And I would just like want to crawl up and go to sleep. But it's a wonderful thing for my liver. It saved me. So where are we?
I drink a second mouthful.
In which I find nothing more than in the first. A third, which gives me... did say this, you weren't paying attention, which gives me rather less than the second. It's time for me to stop. The power of the drink seems to be diminishing. It's clear that the object of my quest, the truth, lies not in me. Not in it, but in me. So he's repeating the previous phrase, almost.
Yep.
Where he said this essence was not in me, it was me. Now he's saying lies not in it, but in me. The tea has called it up in me, but does not itself understand. It can only repeat indefinitely with a gradual loss of strength the same testimony, which I too cannot interpret, though I hope at least to be able to call upon the tea for it again, and to find it there intact and at my disposal for my final enlightenment. That sounds a bit ominous.
All that from a cup of Yorkshire tea, my God.
Well, it isn't though, is it? It's this pathetic tisson. It's which technically isn't really even a tea. These infusions that the French drink, these herbal concoctions.
Oh yeah.
They're not, strictly speaking, it has to be the tea leaf for it to qualify as proper tea. These are decaffeinated tissons and abominations.
That's interesting. Is that in your your edition you've got with all the detailed notes?
No, it's just, doesn't he?
Does he talk about it later?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, because isn't it about the there's bits of lavender and all sorts, and the leaves unfurl. I might be wrong, but I think he talks about going to the chemist where they prepare, and it's leaves, it's buds and stuff. But I might be wrong, but I don't think it's proper tea.
No, I know the stuff you're talking about.
Yeah,
you will be right.
So the tea doesn't. It's thick tea. The tea doesn't understand. The tea has called it up in me, but does not itself understand. It's a thicko, and can only repeat indefinitely, with a gradual loss of strength, the same testimony, which I too cannot interpret. So it's like this mutually assured thickness of tea and tea drinker. Though I hope at least to be able to call upon the tea for it again and to find it there intact and at my disposal for my final enlightenment. So it's this, I think the final enlightenment is your bit about the notion of oneness, but I think this is Proust drawing attention to the fact, I think it's slightly tongue-in-cheek, the final enlightenment's never going to come, is it?
No.
Oh, I forgot to mention, Stuart, Dollar's mum's renamed you, because I was on the comment section calling you Igor when we were going to do the Frankenstein. I said you wouldn't have to wear a costume, which I thought was quite cruel, but I said it anyway.
You've spoilt it now, because I do have a Frankenstein costume, and I was going to wear it, but you've spoilt the surprise now.
Well, also, we would have been struggling to spot the difference, but Dollar's mum suggested we call you Stugor.
Oh, I like that. That's creative. That's wordplay. That I think Dollar's mum's probably a writer. Now we know.
If I was Dollar's mum, I'd get offended, because I think you're making fun of her.
No, not at all. I think I'm going to call myself that. I'm going to go down to the registry office and change my name to Stugor. I like that. Thanks, Dollar's mum.
Yeah, I almost forgot about that. Not like me to forget an insult. Where are we? The final enlightenment. So I think that's
final enlightenment.
Yeah, it doesn't really scan, does it?
No, it's not the same.
I put down my cup and examined my own mind. I wouldn't say you long. It alone must discover the truth, but how? This is the Schelling bit that, and as far as I know, Proust didn't read Schelling, but I think he's being affected by him indirectly. So what's an abyss of uncertainty whenever the mind senses that some part of it has strayed beyond its own borders, when it, the seeker, is at once the dark region through which it must go seeking, where all its equipment will avail it nothing. That's the abyss of nothingness.
It really is.
It's nothingness. But
it's that moment. I'm trying to think of other philosophical terms. It's not like what's Freud's one? Unheimlich.
Yeah, the uncanny.
On the uncanny, it's not necessarily the uncanny, is it? Because this is something that's happening to the person themselves. It's that point when there's like almost like a temporary breakdown of self, when the self becomes the monad, becomes the one. I'm sure I'm sure it comes from German philosophy. I'm trying to think of the term. So this is what he's basically describing here, but what should be quite an anxious moment, an anxious state of dissolving. I think in psychedelic culture they call it ego dissolution, and it's a kind of a terrifying moment, but then it also has this incredibly profound cleansing quality to it that, you know, people who are into psychedelic culture kind of look for, this moment of breaking down and realizing that you as the individual are not just insignificant, but you're actually part of like a greater truth which has more value. It's essentially what's happening here.
Yeah, except I suppose in the context of, it's a much milder, safer, you know, his mother's just made him a cup of tea and given him a cake biscuit. You're not really going to have an existential crisis in that context, are you?
Well, it depends what was in the tea. I mean, his mum might have just given him like some ayahuasca brew, and he's just he's in the early throes of a very intense trip.
Or he's been sent to Zurich. What do they call it? Dignitas. He's having his Dignitas cup of tea.
He's the last tea.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So, where are we? Seek, more than that, create. It's face to face with something that does not yet exist, which it alone can give reality and substance, which it alone can bring into the light of day. And that's the thing we were saying earlier about Tillich's emphasis upon creation.
Yep.
And why art is at least touching the absolute. And I begin again to ask myself what it could have been, this unknown state which brought it with no logical proof of its existence, but only the sense that it was a real state in whose presence the other states of consciousness vanished. So this is like you and your Leica on a mountain bike, terrifying the good burgers of Madrid, isn't it? The countryside.
Like a happy place, yeah.
Whereas my happy place is leaving large branches across the path to upend the aforementioned. That's, if ever you're in Britain and that happens, it could have been me.
It could have been Paul. It's the wire strings that people put up and the nails in the floor. I think that's something to watch out. Branches, I don't mind. I can move those out of the way.
All right, I don't know, because even I'm not that evil.
No, look in the news poll. I'm sure there's been some instances in Wales where people get like wire, like garroting threads and hang it across the trail, so you can't see it. I mean, if you're going full pelt down the trail, you can't see it. And yeah, some people have been killed. Some mountain bikers in the UK. Horrible, isn't it?
That's a bit OTT.
Yeah, it's a bit extreme.
Right. So that's cheery images from Stuart there. Stu Gore.
Beheaded on the mountain bike. Huh. So yeah, I think it's important to talk about the fact that he's trying to will the experience, kind of to reignite it.
Yeah, this is where he differed with Henri Bergson, isn't it? Bergson was his brother-in-law, and Bergson thought that you could deliberately, maybe it'd be interesting to do some more research. Maybe this was Proust's direct rejoinder to Bergson.
Potentially.
Because Proust is basically arguing here that you can't recall it deliberately. It's an involuntary act, which is a contradiction in terms. Yep. But Bergson argued if you concentrated, or there might be methods where you could recall things. Yeah, I think I'm on Proust's side. I don't think you can just summon up anything you want to.
I think there's techniques, like meditation techniques, where you basically explore aspects of the mind, and obviously then you have kind of pseudo science things like hypnosis. But yeah, no, I think I'd have to agree with Proust. I think what he's talking about is more fundamental than just meditating and trying to think about something that's happened. It's like there's a not necessarily physicality to what he's talking about, but there's a transcendental dimension. It's like part of the process is it's kind of removed from your control in a sense.
Before you, because that's an interesting point as well. Before I forget, what I like about the whole Madeleine episode is that it's very intellectually described. It's very cerebral. It's very abstract. Yet the fact he roots it in a piece of cake, it goes against. I'm really resistant to all this. This AI cryogenic bollocks about put your head in storage and you'll be reborn.
Yeah, it's like cyberdelic culture.
Or brain in a vat. The idea that human life has any meaning outside of our physical incarnation. I'm just viscerally, ironically enough, opposed to that idea. I think the whole point of humanity is our incarnation in meat space, to use William Gibson's phrase.
Yeah.
And I like the way Proust emphasizes that. And maybe it's an element of Proust that doesn't get recognized enough because he has a reputation for being so wordy and abstract. But he's very careful. It's a very physically descriptive book.
The thing is, to go on to the charge of Proust being too wordy or too waffly, I don't think from all I've read so far is I've never got a sense that he's wasting words. I think everything he uses is deliberate and precise.
Well, could I rephrase that? I'm not.
No, I know you're not accusing him of that, but what I'm saying for the people who do accuse him of that, and there are many, it's like.
Well, except to be fair, to be fair to them, just to specify, I'm not sure wordy might be the right phrase. I think people struggle to comprehend. Not so much. Well, they do make fun of the fact he has endless long paragraphs. So that is an aspect of the wordiness people do accuse him of. But I think underlying it all, the main accusation is he writes about trivial things. Or I'm putting myself in the head of someone who's hates Proust. I think the accusation would be, what's the point of this? Where's the beef? And the point is, the beef is in the cake. It's a beefcake.
Yeah. A shell-shaped beefcake.
Yeah, I think we're going down. This is like Proust via Greg's Bakery analysis.
Can you imagine Greg's doing the Proust special, Proust lunch special? $5 for a dry minging sandwich and a shell-shaped cake.
For North American viewers, Greg's is like a chain in the UK that basically does, theoretically, I suppose, it's like pasties, pies, really unhealthy pastry, fatty pastry, meaty products for builders at lunchtime.
Yeah, but cheap. So if you need your stomach filling and you just not care about the quality, this is where you go to Greg's.
Well, I went through, this is my confession time now. I know I talked about deviancy before, but there was a Greg's near me where I lived in Manchester, and I used to have a cheeky lunchtime. They do these chicken slices.
Oh, yeah.
Chicken and ham slices.
Bechamel sauce kind of thing.
Oh, but yeah, that I think that's you being Proustian calling it bechamel sauce like. It's a Greg's slice.
White slop.
Yeah, I think bechamel is far.
That's the post special. No, it really is like
you should have worked in advertising if you can describe a Greg's slice using the phrase bechamel sauce. You're the Don Draper of this channel.
Oh man, this one thing I always do when I go back home and see the family is get a Greg's though. Just I don't know.
It saddens me that a lot of North Americans won't appreciate the full deviancy of what we're talking about.
No,
this is to good food what a San Francisco Pride March is to good moral standards.
I'm trying to see what the American alternative would be like. Maybe like a Waffle House or something like that.
No,
I think Waffle House is better quality.
Yeah, you see, this is the problem. Even American bad food is done in a slightly schmaltzy, upmarket, upbeat type of way. There's something for non-British people. A Greg's tends to be next to a Buc-ee's, a betting shop,
a vape shop,
a Turkish shop, or it always tends to be next to the most like a charity shop, the most downbeat dystopian. Think Cormac McCarthy, The Road, and then there'll be a Greg's to the side of the road.
Yeah, we're doing good business. Yeah, but there is a hierarchy, though. I mean, I think if you want to go lower than Greg's, I think there's Coupland's and also Thomas the Baker. So there's a hierarchy of this like pasty industry, and if you want to go really posh above Greg's, there's a Cornish Pasty Co. So it's yeah. If you call John C. Henry or Rupert, you go to Cornish Pasty Co. I'm hungry now talking about this. My God, I love a Greg's right now.
It must be, yeah, but you see, I could. It's interesting to put it back in Proustian psychological terms. Knowing, I'm not going to, but knowing, and occasionally I do actually, I tell a lie. I had something similar yesterday, so I'm lying. But I can always go and avail myself of a Greg's type product. But you're stuck in the middle of Madrid where there's brilliant, brilliant food.
Well, here's called empanada, and it's obviously on a different level.
Yeah, but then you're faced with this problem of comestible transgression and its non-availability. You can't transgress because your only options are all top quality food. So what would be like? Because I doubt the Spanish even do bad.
No, there is bad food here. I mean, in Madrid, there's a lot of bad food. I think
sorry, it's bad, but it's hard to explain. It's like Greg's is like bad food put through a Samuel Beckett play. Put through a Sartre play.
Yeah, rewritten by Choran.
Yeah, without any of the humour.
Yeah.
On a rainy day.
On a rainy day, I mean, put it this way, if I was to have an involuntary memory by eating a Greg's pasty, the involuntary memory would be sitting on a bench in Middlesbrough in winter with it pissing it down with rain with homeless people walking past asking for skag money. And the smell of strawberry vape in the air. That would be my involuntary memory from Greg's. But it's a comforting memory of being younger. You know what I mean? It's my involuntary memory, goddammit. Very personalized.
Right. Well, on that note, I think we should end on a low, as we like to on this channel.
I'm going to go on Ryanair now and see if there's a cheap flight to get back to Newcastle and get a Greg's. Right now. I'm going to do it today. I'm going to film it. Film it for my channel.
I do feel quite poignant though, because honestly, the North Americans, it's one of those, to be serious for a second, it is very interesting when things get lost in translation.
Yeah.
We live in this homogenous, uni-party, one culture, monoculture type world. But it's just the low-level, depressing nature of a Greg's doesn't translate to other cultures.
No, it was on the CNN travel. CNN did a travel guide about, coming to the UK a few months ago. Greg's, there was a part about Greg's on it from memory, saying North Americans won't understand this, but if you're a North American traveling to the UK, you have to have a Greg's. So it has transcended borders, which just I found incredible.
Yeah, because honestly, I don't think I've ever been in a Greg's where there hasn't been a bloke with his jeans half down his backside with a high-vis jacket next to me.
Exactly.
Or maybe that says something else about me and my appeal.
Yeah, or a mum pushing a pram with 5 kids. Like that is
shoving pastries into their mouths to shut them up. Like pacifiers.
It really is, yeah.
So maybe we'll have to revisit this. What is transmissible on a cultural level? But in our defense, Proust started it by talking about a cake.
Yeah.
We just took it to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Well, we're doing this next week, aren't we?
I think week after, isn't it? I think next week.
Oh, yeah, it's on the schedule.
Week after, yeah.
2 weeks.
Thursday,
time.
23rd. Yeah.
So thank you, everyone. Dollar's mum late. You should get up earlier, even if it is ridiculously early in the States. In Continent J, I don't want to probe.
Thanks.
Don't want to probe too far into why he was late. That could be a bit icky.
Yeah, he's got reason. He's got medical now.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
We'll see you in 2 weeks' time. All the best. Take care. Bye.
Bye.